we are live with episode 10 of the Geeky Pastimes podcast. We got to episode 10. That's like something that I think deserves a little bit of celebration, because that's pretty exciting. I've obviously tried lots of different series and things like that before, and they don't often get this far. You know, you start something and you look at what the viewing figures are like, how much money you're getting in, what the sort of workload is related to it, which you never really know all of that stuff until you start a series. And then a lot of the time you're just like, no, it's not really worth it. I'm not going to continue with this. But this one, I think I am sticking with. Like, this one is something I'm enjoying doing. It's something that's obviously very sustainable. I'm just talking to you for an hour every morning. We're chatting about stuff. It's not necessarily related to one game. Obviously, we talk about Call of Duty a little bit more than everything else because that's what I'm closest to. But we do talk about a little bit of everything. And that can change as time goes on. So, yeah, I think this is definitely something that we're going to keep on doing. Good morning to David Marr, Dave, Grimmy, Fogger, and Swift. If you want to catch this like being recorded live, we do it over at youtube.com/Geeky Pastimes. But then the podcast is available from everywhere you can listen to podcasts every day. Today, we're going to be talking about trusting streamers, and particularly trusting that streamers haven't been paid to say something. So shilling, essentially. Like, this is something that I've been accused of since before I was a streamer, really. Like, constantly shilling for different companies. You know, people say I'm a Microsoft shill, I'm an Xbox shill, I'm a Call of Duty shill, I'm a whatever the flavour of the week shill is. Ubisoft shill. I quite like Ubisoft and often get accused of that. And, you know, the idea of being a shill is essentially that you're not giving your honest opinions on something. Instead, you're paid by the company in order to say something good. Or that I think a lot of people use it just to mean like you're saying good stuff about the company in exchange for something. Like, you're hoping for exchange for access to something. You're hoping that they'll send you free copies of games, or you're worried that they'll stop sending you free copies of games or inviting you to stuff if you say something negative about them. That's really what we're talking about today. And I'm not here to say like, oh yeah, it never ever happens. I definitely think there's some people that do it, and there's like different layers of it. Like, there's a couple of YouTubers that I watch who make videos about Disneyland, particularly food at Disneyland. And to me, at least, it's clear if you look at how their content's changed over the last couple of years, that they are trying to get in with the Disneyland creators community. There's like a very small group of creators that Disney work with, and they invite them to special preview events. They like tell them about what's happening like in the near future. They get a lot of free stuff. Like, lots of people obviously want to be a part of that because it makes your content better. It means that you get exclusive content going to these fancy events that the public don't get to go to. And it saves you a ton of money if you're someone that goes to Disney a lot. And so stuff like that definitely does happen. And we'll talk about how this all works in gaming and where the kind of limits of each thing are. So if you enjoy this over on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, turn your notifications on, all of that stuff, so you get told when we're going live. And if you're listening to it on any of the podcast things, consider checking out all of the other podcasts. You know, we've been doing this is the 10th episode, so there's 10 hours of content. That's like a whole HBO season's worth of content. And we've had super interesting conversations in every single episode. I don't think we've had a bad one yet, so that is good. I shouldn't say yet, like we're going to have a bad one. But inevitably, if I keep doing this for hundreds of episodes, there'll be some really good ones. And then some that are maybe less exciting. But we'll see, you know, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, so can you trust streamers? I think before we get too far into this, there's a few things we need to like clarify. Not as in like saying this is definitely the way things work, but saying it like these are things that I'm going to assume are true and assume that we all agree on before I continue. So first of all, I would say there's two different kinds of streamers. Obviously, there's more kinds than that, but two for the sake that we're talking about. The first type are people that are the vast majority of streamers that do it as a hobby. And because they're doing it as a hobby, any money they make streaming or making videos on YouTube is a fun bonus. It's like an exciting little thing. They're making the videos because they want to make the videos, and any money they get, any free stuff they get from videos, anything like that is just like a fun little extra, but they're not relying on their income from YouTube. So those people are obviously a bit more free to do stuff that doesn't make them money, and they're a little bit more free to make decisions that could like harm their relationships with companies and things like that. So when you look at a lot of the people that do, you know, in the Call of Duty community, a lot of the people that do leaks and things like that, this isn't their main job. You know, they have something else. A lot of them are kids. A lot of them, you know, don't need an income at this point. A lot of them are people who have other jobs and they just make the extra videos and stuff like that. And if their channel gets shut down because they leaked something, they don't really care. Like, it doesn't matter that much. They'll just start a new channel or whatever. I would say the vast majority of content creators are kind of in that position. The vast majority of streamers do it in the evening, they do it at the weekend, and they don't really care about that sort of stuff. And then you have the other type, which are people like me who do this full time, and therefore you've got a different set of kind of um, requirements, I suppose, like things that you're worried about, stresses, where you need to have a monthly income. Like, you need to make a certain amount of money every month. And so you're maybe more looking for ways to monetize your content. You're maybe spending more time thinking about how you're going to make money from stuff. And that obviously might change the audience perception. Like, if I just took it at that level, I'd be very, very tempted to be like, okay, those people who are just doing it out of passion, those people doing it for fun, they're going to be a lot more wholesome. They're going to be a lot more kind of honest. And the people who are doing it for money are going to be a lot less honest and are going to be a lot harder to trust. I don't think that's true. Like, I think as we go on, as we go through this hour of me talking about this, hopefully I'll make the case for why almost definitely the opposite of that is true. And the people who are doing this for fun, you need to be quite careful. No, I'm not saying all of them are lying for money or stuff like that, but I'm saying it's much more likely for them to do it. So let's talk about the different ways that streamers and content creators make money. Like, there's lots of different ways. And I think there's more ways than I really realized. I'd watched before I started doing all of this, or before I started going full time, I watched a lot of Harris Heller videos and a few other videos like that, where it's saying like, okay, these content creators, how do they make their money? Where does their money come from? And I thought I understood it of like, oh, okay, essentially it was like ad revenue, gifted stuff, and merch. Like, that was kind of it. And then sort of sponsorships involved in that. I think it's a bit more complicated than that. Like, there's more nuance to it. So, as a content creator, I'll be mostly talking about YouTube and Twitch because I know those. But as a content creator, let's think of all of the different like revenue incomes you have. So my main one, the thing that makes me most of my money, is YouTube ad revenue. Like, YouTube ad revenue makes me by far and away the most money. And I get that by creating content that people want to watch. And the more people that are watching it and the longer they're watching for, the more ad revenue I get. Now, there's also a million things that affect that as well, like what I'm talking about. If I'm showing some violent video gameplay, I'm less likely to get much ad money from that. Like, the amount of money you get per 1,000 views, the RPM, will go down, so you'll get less. Similarly, if people are swearing in the content, the amount of money you'll get per video goes down. The amount of money you get per 1,000 views goes down. So you need to think about stuff like that. You need to think like, okay, I want to make content that doesn't have swearing in it, that doesn't have too much on-screen violence on it. And really, we're talking about like blood and like things like finishing moves and stuff like that. The YouTube, I think it's mostly done automatically, but YouTube sometimes picks stuff up and is like, that's violent, we don't like that. And then swearing, like, you don't want your friends to swear in it. You don't ideally want to play games where the characters are swearing a lot. I think like I had a video that did quite well the other day, where I was just talking about new stuff that's coming in season 3. And even though it's got quite a lot of views, you know, for my standards, it's got quite a lot of views, I'm not making much money on it. And I think it's because there's a swear word on screen. Like, I used a little bit of gameplay and there's like one swear word on screen near the beginning in a subtitle. And I think that genuinely might have affected how much money I'm making on that video, which sucks. But yeah, so you think about that. You also think when you're relying on ad revenue, you want people to watch your videos for a long time. So there's a temptation to make videos longer, to make videos that, you know, whereas before I might have made 5 or 6 minute videos, obviously people know about the idea that if you make an 8-minute video, then you're going to get mid-roll ads as well, which makes you a bit more money. So you want to sort of push back that. But then, like, why not make a half-an-hour video? Why not make an hour-long video? Well, then you've got the other problem that you want as many people to watch it as possible. And YouTube's algorithm works on a basis of kind of how many people click on a video and then stop watching it. How many people click on a video and then don't watch anything after it? If you make a video too long, very few people are going to get to the end of it. And YouTube's going to be like, oh, well, they're stopping watching because they don't like the video. and they won't recommend it to as many people, or people will watch it and then go do something else because they've just watched an hour-long video. And then like that will hurt at YouTube. Will be like, oh no, we don't want this because this is like an endpoint. People leave YouTube after watching this video. So you don't really want to do videos like that. Some people can get away with it, but I can't. You know, I'm not like Mr. Beast or something. So generally, I would think like 10-minute, 15-minute videos are pretty good. People will watch them, but then still go watch something else. People will often watch to the end as long as you give them a reason to watch to the end. So you'll often hear me saying at the beginning of videos stuff like, oh, you know, the best stuff's at the end. The best thing that we're going to talk about is at the end. I've got a video coming out today whenever the Call of Duty patch notes come out. That's when the embargo's up for the creators call, so we can talk about a few of the things that haven't been revealed yet. And I can say like, in that, I'm like, okay, the best thing that I'm going to talk about, the most exciting thing, the thing that the thumbnail mentions is actually at the end of the video. And it's because, you know, I've put good stuff in the middle of it. It's not just filler, but it's like, I want people, as many people as possible to watch all the way through to make sure they catch that. And it also, stuff like that means that you've got a temptation to not use YouTube chapters, because if you use YouTube chapters, as brilliantly as they are, a lot of people will hear you say, oh, the really good stuff's at the end. They'll just find the chapter, click on it, and then not watch the middle of it, which means they haven't watched most of your video. So it doesn't get recommended to people and you don't get much ad revenue. So ad revenue is difficult. Like ad revenue is a tricky thing. You also have a choice of like how many ads to put in your video, how much, like what type of adverts you have. The vast majority of people I know, and you know, I know some quite big creators and I know some small creators. The vast majority of people I know just leave it on the default. Just leave it so it automatically puts ads in. YouTube's not too bad about choosing where to put ads in, better than bloody Twitch is. And, you know, they'll have a mixture of different ads. There'll be pre-roll ads, there'll be mid-roll ads, there'll be unskippable ads or skippable. You can choose to disable them. So for a certain type of content, I might choose to disable a certain type of advert. Or you can choose where to put the ads if you want. So if I've got something where there's a natural ad break, like I could do it in these podcasts. I could be like, and now some words from the advertisers, and then like put in an ad break. You could do that, but it's like a lot of work and it doesn't seem to make you any more money or anything. And YouTube, I'm guessing, prefer to do it automatically. The other big thing about YouTube is that you don't get any say in what the adverts are. So when you're doing adverts on YouTube, you don't get any say in what kind of adverts are being shown. It's going to be controlled a little bit by like the type of content. So a lot of you watching this will probably get adverts for like Jedi Survivor or for Call of Duty Season 3 or stuff like that, because that's the sort of thing that my channel's about. And then you'll also get ads that are relevant to your area, not just your country, but like I get adverts for Norwich-based stuff. I got one for a Norwich gym yesterday. You'll also get ones based on like your age group, your like past interests, your search history, like tons of stuff. We find it super weird, like me and my wife, like we'll be talking about going on holiday to like, we'll be like, oh, well, we've never thought about going to Turkey. Should we go to Turkey? And then we'll get a load of adverts that day for like the Turkish tourist board or something. It's super weird. But even if we haven't searched for anything, it just because we've talked about it, something's picked up, our phones or something have picked up. It's very strange. But anyway, so that's adverts. Adverts are very complicated. They change the way you make your content, but I don't think anyone could say that no one's shilling for a particular company in terms of advertisers, because you don't know who's going to get the ad space on your videos or on your streams. But it definitely does change people's content. So the reason people's content is a bit longer, the reason people save good stuff to the end of the video, all of that stuff, that is very much controlled by wanting to make more money. And if you're not monetized yet on YouTube, then you won't care about that. So you're more likely to have videos where it's just the interesting stuff, just the good stuff. Anyway, then you get other types of content. So oh, sorry, there's questions in the chat. Adam said, how does it work with revenue when you have someone's watching YouTube Premium? Okay, so yeah, we'll do that next then. So YouTube Premium is also a thing. If people who watch your videos have YouTube Premium, in theory, you get a percentage of their YouTube Premium subscription paid to you for how long they were watching your videos. Like, so I think the idea is, you know, if someone's paying £10 a month for YouTube Premium and 25% of their time on YouTube is spent watching you, then you should get 25% of that money or some of that money. It's something like that. I get it like when I look at a video, I can see how much money I've made from YouTube Premium compared to everything else. So if I just look at one of my videos that's done quite well, so I'll just search by views. So the DMZ Building 21 Complete Guide is one of my more popular videos. That got 160,000 views and it's 11 minutes long, so it does all right. I can look at the revenue for that, and I can see I got £341 for that video from ads, just from adverts, and then I got £32 from YouTube Premium. So about 10% of the money of that video is YouTube Premium money. So not a huge amount, but I don't think that many people in reality actually have YouTube Premium. But yeah, you get some money from it. Like, not a ton, but some. It definitely still works. Good morning, Rubber Dog, as well. So yeah, so YouTube Premium is another thing, but it basically works like ads. It still works on the same principle of you want people to watch for as long as possible. You want as many people to watch as possible. Then you have memberships. So memberships or Twitch, and Twitch, the way adverts work, you choose whether you want them to put adverts in automatically, which if you have adverts while someone's watching a stream, it stops people from getting adverts when they join your stream, which is obviously good for attracting new viewers. But you don't really get any money from Twitch adverts. Like, you get such a small amount, it's like basically like pointless. Sometimes they do these ad incentives where they're like, hey, if you stream for 30 hours next month and you have automatic ads put on every 2 minutes, then, or every half an hour, whatever it is, then we'll pay you this much. But like, they went crazy for a couple of months where they were like, hey, we'll give you like £500 to do that, for some of the bigger creators, or thousands of pounds. And then like it dropped off massively. So now, like, you don't really get any money from doing that at all. Basically, like, my ad revenue is like just such a small amount. Like, if I look at it in terms of the ads bit, it's literally like a few cents each. Like, I got, in a single day, I might get $1 on Twitch, and that's with having like an average of 13 viewers, because I don't have many viewers on Twitch. Go follow me on Twitch. I do stream basically everything other than Call of Duty on Twitch now. So if like, I've been playing through Jedi Fallen Order this week. If you want to watch me playing Jedi Fallen Order, go follow me, twitch.tv/Geeky Pastimes. I'd appreciate it. Anyway, so yeah, ads on Twitch, pointless, basically. Then you get membership. So gifted memberships, super chats, stuff like that. That is based on a split. So on YouTube, the creator gets 70% of the money from those, from memberships or super chats. On Twitch, it's 50-50. So from subscriptions on Twitch, you get 50% of the money. And from bits, cheers and stuff like that, you get 50%. On Twitch Prime subs, you still get 50% of the money, as far as I know. So you still get I get like £2.50 or something for each Prime sub. I don't think there's any difference in that. So that's pretty good. But yeah, on YouTube, like, one of the nice things is I choose the membership price. So I've made the membership price less than half of what it is on Twitch, with the hope that more people would sign up to be members. Because if I had loads of members, that would be like such a brilliant source of income for me. Like, that would be a absolutely spectacular source of income, because it's monthly. You can kind of rely on it. It goes up and down a little bit every month, but it's kind of, you can predict how much money you're going to get, unlike ad revenue. Ad revenue is like, are you going to have an amazing video this month, or are you going to have a load of dead videos this month? It can go up and down massively, but membership money is brilliant. And yeah, so I have lots of membership tiers. I've got like a £2 tier where you get the badges and the emotes. I've got a £5 tier where you get all of that stuff, but then you also get like access to, if I do members only videos, I set some streams to members only, and a few other things. I might at some point in the future, I've talked about the idea, I might make it so the live recordings of these podcasts are members only, maybe. So you can still listen to it after the fact if you're not a member, but if you want to listen to it live, you have to be a member. We might do that because, it's a good source of income. I don't have many members on YouTube. I find it very hard to get members on YouTube. On Twitch, it's a lot easier because people are used to becoming, like, getting subs, getting Twitch Prime, and sort of using that on their favorite creators, gifting subs, all of that sort of stuff. I find it quite hard on YouTube. I need to find a better way of, like, cracking how you do that. So on YouTube right now, I've got, like, I don't know, 83 members right now, which isn't, awful, but it's not amazing either. I make like £200 a month off my memberships. About that. And that's, a big chunk of that is sort of, I've got 4 people who are elite members that pay me like £25 a month. So a massive chunk of that is just them, because they are wonderful. Thank you so much to those people. You see them in the credits on every video. That's them. But yeah, so memberships are like quite a nice stable way. And to get more memberships, to get more like super chats and stuff like that, really it's a numbers game. Really, it's like you want more people watching, because if you've got like a 1% chance that someone's going to give you a super chat or someone's going to get a membership in a stream, having 100 viewers is better than having 50, and having 200 is twice as good. Obviously, there's other things you can do, like getting more engaged with the community might lead to more of that kind of money coming in. Doing things like, making fancy animations when people do sign up to it, that can help sometimes. Having funny sound effects, remembering to shout it out in chat, all stuff like that. There's a lot of things that you can do that kind of encourage that kind of stuff. But obviously, I haven't cracked that yet. I would love to have more members. If all of you could become members right now, that would be lovely. But yeah, that's another revenue income. So those are like the two main ones. Those are the two default ones that everybody who streams on YouTube and everyone who streams on Twitch and everyone who makes videos on YouTube, once you get past affiliate, once you get past like you become a YouTube partner or you become a Twitch affiliate, you will make that kind of money. And by and large, if you're making a lot of content, it's passive. Like you're not really doing anything necessarily just to make that money. You're going to make money, but you can do stuff to maximize it. But it's not stuff that necessarily helps a certain product. So I don't think any of that can be considered shilling, if that makes sense. I might do stuff like, today, Season 3 Call of Duty content comes out. I'll stream at that as soon as it goes live, and I'll do a load of DMZ stuff, because that's the thing that gets most people. Because I hope that I'll get some super chats, I hope that I'll get more members, I'll get more viewers than usual, I'll get new subscribers, all of that stuff, more ad revenue. But that's not like anything to do with Call of Duty. That's just like, they're not doing that incentive. That's just me doing it because it makes me more money. Anyway, then we get onto the slightly trickier thing. So the next thing that I think most people understand is sponsorships. So sponsorships are normally when a company pays you money to present their product to an audience. Now, this gets very, very complicated, and it gets more complicated the bigger you get. So when you start off streaming or you start off as a content creator, a lot of the time companies will do things where they will say, we will send you a free product if you make a video about it, if you mention it in a video, if you post about it on your socials, whatever your main platform is. And when you start off and you don't have many viewers, it'll be like loads of dodgy electronics places, people selling like game boosting services, like, online gambling, crap like that. And then as you get bigger, more respectable companies will be interested in it. And there's a weird thing where companies scam creators doing it. So I think it's a scam. But a lot of the time they'll say, okay, we're not going to pay you for a sponsorship, but we're going to give you an affiliate code. And if people buy the product using your affiliate code, you'll get 5%, 15%, whatever it is. You'll get a percentage of it. And I think that's nearly always a bad deal. You never really make much money from doing anything like that. Unless you have an insanely huge audience, but the company is essentially getting advertising from you for free. Now, as soon as you do something like that, where you agree that you are taking money, you are going to get paid somehow, even if it's through an affiliate code, in exchange for a product, you need to declare it. And the rules in this are different depending on what country you're in. The UK is a lot stricter than basically everywhere else. But on YouTube, at least, if you are taking money in exchange for talking about a product, you have to call it an ad. You have to say it's sponsored. You have to have it up on the screen saying it's sponsored. You have to have it in the description. You have to check a little box on YouTube. You have to say it's sponsored. And there's like a gray area. Like now, if someone sends me something for free and I'm not actually paid to talk about it, I essentially say to the company, well, like, I'll say what I want about it. I'll review it if you want. I'll, talk about it like that. But I'm not going to say anything positive. You don't get any say over what I'm saying about the product. And I don't consider that an ad. I'll say, oh, I got this for free, but I'm not going to like say it's an ad, because an ad makes me think, okay, they've paid for you to say something. And that's a kind of weird gray area. But if it's like as clear as, hey, like with, the Udi or the Ridge wallet, or I've done stuff for a couple of other little things like that, Gamerlink, which I did for ages, they were paying me a set amount of money every month or for every video that I did. And they would say, hey, you say this much money, and they'll sometimes give you stuff to say. So you'll often see like the HelloFresh adverts or BetterHelp adverts. All of those adverts on lots of different channels say the same thing. That's because they've been given copy to say. Sometimes they'll have a bit of video they want you to show. Sometimes they'll just give you a list of saying like, here, like with Ridge Wallet, they would give me a list of like features of the wallet, and they would say, pick 2 or 3 of these and talk about those. And they'll tell you how long you have to talk about it. Stuff like that. So that's a pretty clear advert. And I think most people on YouTube are very good at saying this is an advert. And the reason for that is you have to. Like, you could get in a lot of trouble if you started talking about something that you were getting paid to talk about, and you didn't declare it as an ad, you didn't declare it as a sponsorship, as a gifted thing, then you could get in trouble about it. And more importantly, I think, the company who's providing it to you could get in trouble. So a lot of the time, the sort of really strict guidelines about what you have to say and what you have to do actually come from the company. Like the company are like, you have to say this as an ad. You have to put this in the description. You have to put this in the title. You have to have this up on screen. Like they don't want to get caught embroiled in some situation where people are like, hey, you tried to like sneakily advertise this without declaring it. Because that would be like big legal trouble for them. So all of that stuff is pretty much above board. You know, if you see someone advertising Raid Shadow Legends, or you see someone advertising BetterHelp and you see it says ad or sponsored or whatever, or they say, thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this thing, then you know that what they're talking about isn't their voice. It's not their thing. And some creators like me are quite picky about stuff like that. Like I don't advertise online gambling. I don't advertise energy drinks. I don't advertise stuff that like I don't like. You know, I get some people like saying like, hey, can you advertise our Call of Duty boosting service and we'll give you like £200 to mention it in a video. And even though I could do with that money, I still say no because I'm like, I don't want to be associated with that. I don't want to be connected to that. So I just say no. So you can, with some creators, you can kind of tell, okay, if they're saying they like it, they must like it. Like they've agreed to advertise it. And some creators will just take any advert, obviously, because some people need the money. So it's kind of, that's a bit harder to tell whether they genuinely like the product or whether they're just paid to like it. If it says it's a sponsored segment, I would assume it's just an advert and it's just that. Then you get onto the slightly more difficult things where, so that's a way someone can make money. And that's basically all of the ways people make money. But then you get onto a slightly more difficult thing where someone just gets given something for free. And it's a gift, and there's no expectation of you saying anything about it, and there's no expectation of you necessarily even making content about it. This happens quite a lot. So this is kind of the deal I have with Elgato. Elgato don't pay me to use their products, but they do send me their products, and obviously that's a fairly substantial saving for me. You know, like they've sent me capture cards worth quite a lot of money. They sent me this microphone, the Wave XLR. Like they've sent me a few different things, and if I made a video where I was just like saying, hey, this is like amazing, I would say it's an ad. You know, I would say like this is a good thing. But if I just do like a review of it, then that's a little bit different. And I probably wouldn't say it's an ad, but I would say at the beginning, they provided it for me for free. Now, where you get like the gray area here, the tricky area is, would I say something negative about Elgato, knowing that then they might not in future send me more products? Personally, yes, I would. Like, personally, for me, I think, like, my brand's integrity, you lot trusting me, is worth more than my business relationship with Elgato. So I'm perfectly happy saying, like, hey, there's a weird thing where sometimes this Wave DX and Wave XLR goes fuzzy when I'm on a 2PC setup, and I haven't quite worked out why. Sometimes the software can be a little bit annoying. It's better than the Go XLR was, but it's still got some annoyances. Sometimes the capture cards can be weird. They're fine for me at the moment, but I know like other people have been having problems. I think Lackey's been having some trouble with his lately. Like I don't mind saying that stuff, but I am aware that someone from Elgato, like the Elgato PR rep person, could watch my content and be like, oh, he's bad-mouthing Elgato. We're not going to work for him in future. And that's fair enough. Like that's up to them. But I would say that doesn't really happen. I've never seen it happen. I've never had a product and said something negative about it when I've been talking about it, and then had that company come back to me and say, you said something negative about it, so we're not going to work with you in future. Like, that's literally never happened. Like, not once. And this is where we get on to, like, talking about video games a bit more, which I think is more the point of what I wanted to talk about with the podcasts. With companies like Call of Duty, and Call of Duty being the main one, often those companies will give lots and lots and lots of content creators and streamers and people like that free stuff, like free games. Sometimes they'll send free merch. Like I used to get stuff from Call of Duty. I used to get like hoodies and stuff like that. I haven't had anything like that for years now, for a long time. But, you know, I do get a copy of the game. I do get some COD points and stuff like that. When I've made video, I know that, and I know like some Call of Duty developers watch my stuff. I know the Call of Duty, my contacts at Call of Duty. So like the community managers in this case, I know they watch my stuff. Like sometimes they're in chat. Sometimes I've played with them. Hey, thank you, Elusive Soul, for becoming a supporter. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah, I know they watch my stuff sometimes. A lot of the developers do, and then the community managers sometimes do. They're like aware of what I do. I've said quite a lot of negative stuff about Call of Duty over the years. Like one of my most popular Call of Duty videos was me saying how terrible Vanguard Zombies was. I've done various ones about problems with Warzone, about problems with Warzone 2, about problems with DMZ. Not once have these people, who I speak to probably on like a weekly basis, not once have they ever brought it up. Not once have they ever like said something and been like, oh, like you need to stop posting stuff like that, or you need to change this, or you need to take it down, or anything like that. Like literally, they've never brought it up. I've had a face-to-face conversation with Ted Timmons and said some things that I didn't like about the game to him, and you know, he was just like, oh yeah, I understand that. There was no kind of friction there at all. And I genuinely believe it. Like when the people went to COD Next, you know, Doug from On Warzone and Keshav from Charlie Intel, and Broken Machine and Benny Central and people like that, they will have said stuff that's negative about the game to the people. Like they want the game to be better. They share their honest opinions with them. And at no point are the developers or the PR people ever going to turn around and say, well, we're not going to give you a free copy of the game this year because you said you didn't like it last year. Like that just doesn't happen, like at all. What might happen is if your whole channel, if like your constant thing is just constantly complaining about the game, constantly saying how terrible it is, insulting the developers, doing personal attacks, stuff like that, then they probably won't work with you. And like, I think that's fair enough. Like, if you were just constantly being negative about it, why would they want to then give you more stuff to help you make content being negative about it? That doesn't make sense. They obviously want to work with people that like the game. They want to work with people that make content that shows the game in a good light. But that doesn't mean like on an individual case-by-case basis, people can't be negative about it. And I think that's like a fairly subtle distinction that a lot of people don't understand. People like to see it in a very binary way of like, oh, if you're a Call of Duty creator, if you've got a creator code, or if you get sent free copies of the game, or you get invited out to events and stuff like that, you have to only say good things about the game. And the people who say the truth about the game, they don't get invited to anything. And it just doesn't work like that. Like the people who get invited stuff, the people who get creator codes, that's like a weird combination of how many viewers you have on average, you know, like your reach essentially. So people like Tim the Tatman, people like Courage JD, people like Nick Merckx, people like that will get invited stuff regardless of what they say about it because they're huge and they've got huge platforms. There's also geographical area. Like if they're inviting a bunch of people to LA, it's easier for them to invite people who live in North America. It's cheaper for them to do it. And for Call of Duty, and this is different for each like company, but for Call of Duty, they have different people in charge of handling creators in each area. And the North American people, they get sent loads of stuff. They get invited to loads of stuff. We don't really get all of that kind of thing. Like, you know, I don't get invited to DMZ tournaments, even though I'm sort of a big voice in DMZ, because I'm in the EU essentially. And it's like all the team captains are always North American. And there's, yeah, so, you know, you might have seen all of the North American people got sent mouse mats recently and got sent a code for Black Cell. We didn't, and it wasn't like, oh, because I'm smaller. It's, you know, neither did like some of the bigger streamers here. It's because it's a North American thing. So your region matters a lot. And then the biggest thing that does matter, and I think the biggest thing that gets misunderstood, is your personal relationships matter. Like, not your relationship to the game, not what you've been saying about the game, nothing like that, but your relationship with your individual point of contact. That matters a huge amount. So, like, when I used to do all the Porn Takes Porn stuff, and I got sent a bunch of stuff, and it was all going really well, then I had a point of contact with Activision who liked my content, liked where I was heading, and I talked to her quite a lot, and I got involved in a lot of stuff, because she obviously thought, you know, hey, this is like a positive thing. And then, like, right now, like, I had a year when Vanguard was out where I didn't really know the point of contact very well at all, so I would just get some really generic stuff. And now it's like I speak to the person quite a bit more, but they, you know, they don't provide me with as much stuff. I don't have quite as good relationship with them, so I'm not going to get in that inner circle. When you look at some creators and you're like, how is this creator who doesn't get many views? Or how is this creator who like is quite negative? Or how is this creator who whatever getting this special treatment from Call of Duty? A lot of the time, it's like they get on with the person. They get on with the PR manager person. And like with any job, if you get on with someone, you're more likely to do them favors. You're more likely to be like nice to them. And again, really importantly, that doesn't mean that they have to be constantly saying nice things about the game. It doesn't mean that they're asked to say nice things about the game. So I was in, just sort of on the note of the thing that actually spurned this entire conversation off. I saw a tweet from someone where they were saying, oh, look at all of the people who are on the Creators Call, all the people who are invited onto the Creators Call are suddenly saying positive things about Call of Duty after they've been negative about it for a month. They must have been told to say this stuff. And like, that's not true at all. Like, we had the Creators Call. I can't talk about the details of it yet until the patch notes come out. But I can say, in the Creators Call, there was basically there's a presentation. They have a few different developers. They talk about it. The only thing that was like, hey, this is what you need to say, this is what you don't need to say, was please don't leak any of this before the embargo. And if you do, we're not going to do this at all. Not the people who leak it are going to be not invited. It wasn't even a personal thing like that. It was literally like, hey, if you leak this stuff, we're not going to do this in future, because in the past, you know, stuff's got leaked straight away after the creators calls. And so they were like, yeah, we're not going to do stuff like that in future. But at no point did they ever, not even implied, they never said, hey, can you post about this on your socials? Or can you focus on this? Or can you talk about this? Or can you get hyped about this? Can you try to build hype about this? There's like not a single mention of anything like that. There wasn't a single mention of, we hope you make content about anything in particular. It was literally just, this is what's happening with the game. This is why we're doing these things with the game. And that's it. There's nothing else. And I've never seen it from Call of Duty. I've never seen, and you know, again, I know I'm not the biggest creator, so it might be different for other people, but I know a lot of bigger creators who haven't had the same experience. The only time they ever say like, hey, can you hype this up? Can you like talk about this? Is either when they're asking you to run an event. So like when I used to run the UK community events, the Call of Duty community events, then, I mean, even then they didn't really, but like I get the impression of like, hey, you know, here's, they would make graphics for me and be like, can you share this? So that happened. And I know occasionally they sponsor people to do streams. So like they'll sponsor like Jack Frags to stream a new game or a new beta or whatever. Like as soon as it goes live, they'll be like, hey, for these 2 hours, can you stream this? And that's it. And then I imagine then it's kind of like, hey, can you, you know, maybe then it's more positive, but he has to have a sponsored thing. He has to have an advert thing all over it. So that's kind of, I think that's kind of why. But they never ever tell you to do anything. And like I've worked with Ubisoft, I've worked with EA. Ubisoft and EA both demand that if there's ever something where like they've given you special access to something, you have to put their logo on a screen. There's like the EA Creator Network or Ubisoft Creators or something. Ubisoft something, I don't know what it's called. But you have to put their logo up on the screen. They've got a bunch of rules about disclosing when you've been given free access to something, when you've been given early access to something. And again, you know, like with the Battlefield stuff, I was involved a lot in the Battlefield 2042 things where, you know, the preview events and stuff like that. We were never told, hey, can you say positive stuff about it? I never got any kickback for when, after I was hyping up Battlefield 2042, when I saw the reveal trailer early and the gameplay trailer early, I was like, oh my God, this looks amazing. Because I genuinely thought it looked amazing. And then they let us play it. And I was like, oh, this is bad. And I made a video saying like, this is bad. Like, this is a bad game. No one from EA ever said to me like, hey, you've been bad-mouthing Battlefield. You've been saying bad stuff about it. Like, we're not going to invite you in future. Instead, they kept inviting me to Battlefield stuff, which I ended up turning down because I wasn't playing Battlefield anymore. But they also still gave me codes for like Formula 122 or Grid Legends or like, you know, hopefully I'll get something for Jedi Survivor. Like Dead Space Remake. They still provided codes for me for those games, despite me saying lots of negative stuff about Battlefield 2042. It just like, it doesn't work the way people would assume it would. People seem to think, oh, if you say something negative about a game, then you're going to be like blacklisted or you're going to be shunned by them. And I think it is really, it's only if you're, it's only if you were constantly doing that and that was like your content. Like if your content was being negative about a game series, that developer probably won't want to work with you. Like, and I think that's fair enough. Like, why should they give you stuff for free? They're still not blocking you from making the stuff you want. They're just not giving you stuff for free. And I think that's like fair enough. I just saw in chat, I will talk about some of these things. I'll go through the comments a bit towards the end, like I normally do. But someone said about Dr. Disrespect, Benchmark Boy said, and I think this is an interesting thing, I've seen this loads of time. Did you not see what happened to Dr. Disrespect? He's been dropped by COD for saying negative stuff. That's not true at all. They were quite public about why they dropped Dr. Disrespect. The only way they sort of dropped him as such was they didn't invite him to COD Next or any of those events. And they said specifically it was because he is now the sort of figurehead of a competing game company. Like, he's making a game that he is like actively saying, hey, like, this is competing with Call of Duty. This is like going against Call of Duty. He's made loads of comparisons to Call of Duty himself. You know, he said that whole thing about like his game already looks better than anything Call of Duty have ever put out, which was a lie. But anyway, he said that. So he's done that. And then he was shocked that they didn't invite him to an event to see an early build of a new Call of Duty game. It's like, well, obviously, like, you're not going to invite that. I'm sure the Call of Duty people also didn't invite like the Battlefield people. I know for a fact, you know, I've worked with a couple of people who work for gaming companies, and I've had early access codes to things and offered them to them, and they've been like, I can't play another game early and then give my public opinions on it because I work for this company. It's, you know, a weird conflict of interest. The advertising, the marketing people wouldn't like it. So Dr. Disrespect, by going into competition with Call of Duty, he's obviously not going to get invited to Call of Duty stuff anymore. I mean, it probably also doesn't help all of the stuff, you know, like people still not really knowing what happened with him and Twitch and why he left Twitch, and, you know, Dr. Disrespect's general kind of toxic attitude to everything. But like, the reason he got dropped, like, wasn't invited to Call of Duty events, was just that he was competing against them. Like, that was it. It wasn't because he'd said anything negative about it. When that happened and people were like, oh, well, he said negative stuff about Call of Duty, so I haven't invited him, I was just sitting there thinking, like, but they've got Courage JD and Nick Mercs, two people who very loudly and publicly said they didn't want to play Warzone anymore because they thought it was really bad. Like, they were both super vocal about not playing Call of Duty, more so than Dr. Disrespect was, but they were invited to COD Next. Maybe that's because they weren't in a company competing with Call of Duty. And, you know, Coach JD and Nick Mercs both walked away still complaining about the game, and it's still like they still get sent stuff, they still get invited stuff. So it's like, it's definitely not because Dr. Disrespect said negative stuff. It's just the company thing. Like, he is making a competitor, so that's it. But yeah, he is very, very toxic as well. He said in a video they told him because it's negative. I mean, he's wrong then. He's lying. Like, just like I said again, look at the facts. The fact that Courage JD and Nick Mercs were invited to that event and he wasn't. I would say they've both been more negative about Call of Duty than he has, but they're not making a competing product to them. And I don't know, I thought it was him that had said that it was because he was a competitor, because I thought it was he'd posted something about like, oh, they won't let me become a competitor. It shows that like they're scared. It shows that they're taking me seriously or something, which, you know, wasn't really a thing. I think that's what was going around on the Discord, on the Midnight Society Discord. But, you know, I think maybe Call of Duty said it as well. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that was the reason why anyway. So, no, you know. Anyway, going away from that, now we get onto something that's even trickier. The rabbit hole goes deeper. So, I've talked about how creators get income, and I've talked about how creators get free stuff, and it might, like, in theory, it shouldn't really sway their opinion. But then there's two more things about this. There's two more layers to this. And this is where I think things get really murky, and I think even my opinion could be swayed, potentially. The first thing is, what about before a game comes out and you want a key to it and you're a smaller developer? Sorry, a smaller creator, a smaller content creator. Say if, like, Dead Island 2's coming out. Dead Island 2's coming out on what? The 28th? Something like that? Sometime soon. It's coming out soon. And I want a key for that game. So I will be contacting, I already have contacted the people who are doing the PR for it. You know, I know one of the people who's doing it and been like, hey, can I have a key for the game? And they're like, yeah, maybe, because that's the kind of level that I am, where most games I can ask for it, and most games they'll say, yeah, maybe, and then I'll get something at launch, probably. And some games, you know, sometimes I don't. Sometimes they don't manage to get me a key. Like, that's fine. I think, like, you know, Sony are often like, yeah, well, sorry, we can't. And sometimes they say they can. But like, while I'm in that period of waiting to see if I get a key or not, is there not a kind of temptation for me to say good things about the game? Say, yeah, I'm super excited about this game. I think yes. I think genuinely there probably is. There probably is a sign that on socials, I'm not going to be like, hey, the previews of Dead Island 2 have me kind of worried. A lot of people said it looked kind of boring. I'm going to stream it when it comes out, but it might be crap. Because that's kind of how I feel about Dead Island 2. Is like, I think this game, I want to play it and I'm looking forward to playing it, but I am worried about it. And I'm worried about some of the things that came back from the previews. That's definitely a worry. But like, am I going to post that on Twitter? Probably not. So it's not that I'm saying good things about the game. I'm not lying to say good things about the game, but I'm probably not going out of my way to criticize the game. Which, to be fair, I haven't even played it, so it's not a big deal. But it's like, that seems a bit weird. After I play the game, I'm not going to be like, oh, I need to say good things about it, so the next game they publish, I get a copy of. Like, that I'm not going to do. Like I was saying, most publishers, as far as I know, do not care. But before the game comes out, I'd be very reluctant to say something super negative about it because it might, like, stop me from getting a key. And in the past, I have had games where I've said I'm worried about them, I've said I haven't looked great, and then I've been sent a key anyway because, you know, they're not paying attention to me or whatever. But I definitely think there's a chance, you know, if you're a PR executive, a PR manager, and you have 50 keys to give out for a game, and you've got 200 people asking for keys, surely a sensible thing to do would be to look through them, sort them probably by, like, how many viewers they've got, how many average concurrent viewers they have, and then look at the people who are saying that, who are big fans of the series, and give it to the people who are, like, super positive. I would be doing that. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, why wouldn't you get involved in that? Again, they're not blocking you from making content about the game. They're just not giving you a free copy of it. And for people who, again, like in my situation, where I'm not making a lot of money making content, I'm not making a huge amount of cash doing this, that can actually be quite a big deal, because if I have to buy a copy of a game, that can be like 50, 60 pounds that I could save by them giving me a free copy. And like, that's quite a big deal. Like, that's quite a lot of money. Obviously, with bigger content creators, that doesn't really matter. 50, 60 quid isn't a lot of money to them. So whether they get a free copy or not doesn't really matter. But yeah, when you're like starting out and you want to play lots of different games, or you want to cover a lot of different games, you know, people, especially, I would worry about this with small review channels. If you want to review lots of games to have content for your thing, you need lots of free copies of games, and so you probably don't, in previews, want to be too negative. And I think that's why genuinely you don't see that many negative previews for games. Like, even from the bigger outlets, it's pretty rare to see a preview for a game being like, this looks a bit crap. It happens, but like, fairly rarely. So that's definitely something where I would be a bit wary. If someone's saying they're excited about a game and they're a bit of a smaller channel, I would always have it in my mind a little bit like, maybe they're just wanting early access. Maybe they're just wanting a free copy. Maybe they're just wanting something like that. That's definitely something that I would assume when I'm looking at that content. And then similarly, and this applies a bit more to bigger channels, what about when they treat you? What about when they show you a good time? And this happens sometimes. So like, from when I used to go to Gamescom, I used to run a little review site. I went to a Witcher 3 presentation, so got to see Witcher 3 early. They showed us a bit of the game, didn't get to play it, just watched someone playing it, and then got to sit down with a developer, and they were like, here, have some free beers, have a Witcher jigsaw, it's a bit weird, have a t-shirt, have all of this stuff. And it's like, is that going to make you more positive about the game because they put you in a better mood and they were nice to you? Maybe. What about when they take you somewhere? So like with the recent Redfall event, Bethesda paid for me. They paid for my train ticket to go down to London. They gave me some nice, you know, I got some nice orange juice, and they had some cakes, and they had probably had some beers out, I don't know. They had cakes and sandwiches and stuff like that. And, you know, it was exciting getting to go to the Bethesda office in London and play the game early. That like makes you feel special. And it's like, are you going to say more positive stuff about the game because of the situation? Imagine those people who got flown out from England to LA for COD Next. You know, getting flown 5,000 miles to go play a game that you're super excited about early, and then getting given like free food and like lots of entertainment and stuff like that. It's gonna like change your view a little bit. It's gonna make you super excited. It's gonna make you hyped, which is why they do it, of course. You know, it's why when you do these preview events, they do that rather than just putting you in a random office space Like, they treat you nice because they want to keep you on side. And, you know, it's just like a fun thing for everyone involved. It's a waste of money, but it's a fun thing. And that's difficult. I mean, I would say, again, tooting my own horn a little bit here, with the Redfall event and watching all of the previews that came out of that, I would say I was probably one of the most negative previews about Redfall. I still enjoyed my time of the game. I had a good time. I think it's got potential. But I think my preview of it was quite negative and talking about some of the issues of the game, more so than a lot of the big creators, more so than like IGN and stuff like that, who I know were in the same session as me. So it's like, you know, I would like to think I'm trustworthy and I'll always say what I thought. And again, even when I put out that negative video, I sent a link from that video to the person that invited me to the event. And she wasn't like, oh, this is quite negative or anything. She was like, oh, thanks for doing the coverage. And that was it. You know, we'll see whether I get invited to another thing from Microsoft or Bethesda in future. I would like to think so. The person hasn't unfollowed me on Twitter or anything like that. So hopefully it's all fine. But there is definitely like a risk of, I can imagine some people being swayed, especially younger people or people who are a bit newer to this, being like, oh, they're treating me nice, so I need to say something nice so then I get invited back to stuff like this in the future. I think like a lot of the bigger creators, a lot of the more seasoned creators don't necessarily want to go to all these events, so turn a lot of that stuff down, or they, you know, they don't care too much because they know they're going to get invited because their audience is big. So if you see like Tim the Tatman get invited to an event, I don't believe that Tim the Tatman's going to be positive about something just because he got invited to an event. He doesn't care. He gets invited to a bunch of stuff. You know, same with like Jack Frags or Two Angry Gamers or something like that. But with smaller creators, I can definitely see the temptation. I can definitely see the sort of feeling of, hey, I should, like, if I'm super positive and super hyped about this, then other companies will see that, or this same company will see that, and then they'll invite me to more stuff in future. Like, that's definitely a possibility. You tuned in today to hear me say enthusiastically, show you a good time. Yeah, it's, yeah. But anyway, I think that's interesting. Anyway, we've got like 5 minutes left, so I'm going to quickly scroll through some of the comments. So if you've got any questions or anything you want to talk about in chat, please let me know. Again, if you're listening to this back as a VOD or as a podcast, if you come and watch it live, 9 a.m. weekdays, I probably won't be doing one on Friday this week because I'm going to London for the Pokemon Championships. But if there's any other time when I am doing it, you can watch it, you can get involved, ask questions and stuff like that. But I'm happy to be very transparent about stuff. So, Grimmy said, content streamers and streamers who kill for fan base satisfaction. That is a different type of streamer. The people who try to impress a community. I think that's how a lot of people try to grow. And as I've done this for longer, I've realized more and more trying to get in with a certain community is a really terrible idea. Because A, the communities are very small, and so it's not going to do that much for your viewing figures, really. And B, the communities are normally quite toxic and gatekeepery, and you end up making content that's for more and more and more of a niche, which might get you an audience, like it might get your foot in the door, but you're never going to grow like that. I think generally, if you want to do content creation seriously or streaming seriously, and this is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, you want to make more general content. Like, you know, you look at the big names like Dr. Disrespect, Tim Tatman, Nick Merckx, all those people we're talking about today, Ninja. They don't make niche content. They make content that is for just people who like games, just gamers. They don't make like stuff where you need to know loads of stuff about Call of Duty or Fortnite or PUBG or Apex or whatever. They make the most accessible content possible. And that's, you know, that's how you grow. That's how you get big, is by finding ways to sort of take your niche, take the thing that you're good at or the thing that you're interested in, but then make it interesting to a wider audience. Like, that's something you need to do. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do, moving a bit away from the Call of Duty Easter eggs and like DMZ guides of like, hey, this is very specific for the few people that are playing DMZ and know what I'm talking about, and trying to make the titles and the thumbnails and the sort of narrative of the videos be a bit more like, hey, Call of Duty has this mode that's called DMZ, and in DMZ there's this kind of tricky mission, so let's have a look at it. You know, like that kind of framing, so it's much more accessible to normal people, and a bigger audience, because then more people can watch it. That's kind of, I think, probably the way to go. Anyway, guilty as charged. There are days I don't, Madago said, there are days I don't have time to watch an entire video, but I like it anyway, even if I have to bail part way through, even pre-recorded. Yeah, if you want to support your favorite creator for free without giving them any money, watch their videos, don't follow a link off Twitter or anything. Just go onto YouTube, and if it shows up in your recommended, amazing. Click on it, watch it all the way through, and then go on to watch another video, preferably one of theirs, but it doesn't really matter that much. So just watch their video all the way through, then go on to watch another one. That will give that person such like a big boost in terms of engagement and everything. You know, one of my most recent videos that did quite well, that video from not yesterday, but the day before. Well, you know, it did well for me. It's on like 13,000 views, which is good for one of my videos lately. That one, the engagement, people have watched it on average for 7 minutes and 51 seconds. That's 2.5 minutes longer than usual. Normally it's about 5 minutes for me. So it's like, that's really cool. And that's why it's been shown to 118,000 people. Whereas if I look at, say, a different video that didn't have people watching that much, so say my Ravenswatch gameplay and impressions, that one, people who watched it on average for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, even though it's an 8-minute video, and that has been shown to 9,000 people. So like literally a video that's been watched, you know, people have watched it for 3 times as long on average. It's been shown to like, what's that? 10, 20 times, 15 times as many people. So yeah, so like watch people's videos all the way through if you can. Leave it going in the background. It doesn't mind. YouTube doesn't know. Anyway, more things. What else have people said? You can't go back to normal YouTube now. Ads are so annoying. I wish I could afford YouTube Premium. I used a free trial and loved it, but it's just so expensive. Like if I got it for me and my wife, because we have separate YouTube accounts, separate recommendations and stuff, it's like £19 a month. That's quite a lot of money. I only just got out of my Photoshop subscription, so I was paying £10 a month for that. I'm trying to cut back so like I can afford to keep doing this for longer. I'm trying to save more money. You could all become members, then I could afford YouTube Premium. But yeah, £19 a month is a lot of money, sadly. Laker-esque, I've been accused by my friends of working for YouTube. The amount you tell everyone can't go back salad. It is really funny when people assume you're a shield just because you really like a product. It's like Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass. It became like a meme, I think it was last year or maybe the year before, where people are like, Game Pass, it's the best deal in gaming. As in everyone's saying that because it's like, it's true, but also it sounds like it's an advert. It sounds like it's a sponsored thing. But it just legitimately, Game Pass is so amazing. It's so good. Fogger said, if you don't tell companies what's wrong with their products, they'll never get better. That is kind of true, but I think people overestimate the value of their own feedback. Companies are constantly getting feedback, and they know how to get feedback. They know where to look for it. They know how to get it. They'll do lots of kind of focus group testing. Like just looking at what people are saying about something on Twitter or looking at what people say about it on YouTube is quite like, I think, unreliable for companies to get feedback from because it can be so heavily swayed by a couple of really big content creators like it is with Call of Duty. I think it can be heavily swayed by like, you know, mobs and trends and people misunderstanding stuff. They do a lot of their own market testing and they spend a huge amount of money and time on testing and market testing specifically to try and get good quality feedback. And sometimes they will ask for feedback and they will have like special forms to fill in, or they'll do surveys and stuff like that. And you should fill those in if you care about giving your feedback. But I think people massively overestimate the value of just like, I'm going to make a YouTube video saying everything that's wrong with Warzone, or I'm going to make a tweet just like listing all the things that I hate about Warzone or whatever. And it's like, I know they read that stuff, and I personally think they pay too much attention to it. But I think it's just like, I think it's quite uncontrolled. You know, if you're doing an experiment, you wouldn't want that kind of feedback because it's just like there's too many variables. Like you don't know, is that person just doing this for clicks and engagement? Is this person someone who plays Call of Duty 20 hours a day? Is this person someone who actually prefers a different game and has just got like some bitter thing against Call of Duty? Like you never know all of these many variables, but when you do like focus testing, you can get like the group of people you want and then find out what they have to say. I genuinely think feedback like on the internet, on social media is generally of incredibly low quality. Like, you know, and you also get the thing of like, you never see people on Twitter or on YouTube well, not never, but you rarely see people saying positive stuff about games and stuff because they're just playing the game and enjoying it. Like they're just having a good time. They don't feel the need to be like, enjoyed Call of Duty today. I mean, sometimes I post stuff like that just to balance it out a little bit. But it's the same thing, you know, if you look at hotel reviews on TripAdvisor, you'll often see loads of negative reviews of like weird things that happened. Because most of the people who just go to a hotel and have a fine experience don't leave a review because it doesn't occur to them to. Like, they've paid for a hotel, the hotel's done its job, the transaction's ended. People who have a grievance against a hotel are like, how can we hurt this hotel? How can I make my voice heard? And then they leave a review. So it's like the negative stuff is always going to rise to the top and bubble to the top. And with Call of Duty, you've got the problem of negative stuff gets more engagement, it gets more views, it gets more clicks, more retweets, more replies. So it's like, I genuinely think like the whole telling a company what they're doing wrong thing is often not as useful as people think it is. I find it very strange when you see people being like, oh, like, we need to make sure the Call of Duty developers know that they've messed up, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, they always know, before you do, they know when something's not working. But it's just you don't know the reasons why it's not working. The reasons why it's not working could be incredibly complicated. It could be money related. It could be technical. It could be time related. I think it's very rare they just make a decision and it's like, it's just the wrong decision and the majority of people would prefer it if they made the other decision. I genuinely don't think that happens very often. I think a lot of the time, the things that a lot of people aren't happy about are things that the developers aren't happy about either, but they couldn't do for whatever reason, or the things that people seem to, the majority isn't happy with, like, you know, when Charlie Intel posts that or whoever, it's actually like the majority of people are getting on fine with it, and it's just the little online bubble on social media are the ones who don't like it, but that their voice is amplified like a million times compared to the people who are just getting on and enjoying it. Anyway, so Coburn said, you aren't the type of person to say detrimental things about a product either. Anything you'd say is an effort to bring awareness to both potential consumers and the manufacturer. Again, I just carrying on my same point. I would say generally, when I'm saying that there's a problem with something, I'm generally talking to other players. I'm not really often talking to the developers. When I talk to the developers about stuff that I think is wrong, I go directly to them. Like, you know, and it's one of the perks of being like in this little network. But like, and even then, it's always just bugs and typos and stuff. Like, the only thing that I ever bring up with the Call of Duty developers is like, hey, this DMZ mission description is wrong, or this crashes when you do this, or this mission you can't complete because it's bugged. And it's because I know that I'm probably one of the few people who's got to that mission at that point, or who has like worked out why something's going on. That's the only time I really talk to them. I've never gone to the Call of Duty developers and been like, hey, you should get rid of loadouts out of the game. Because I know like that's what I think is right, but it's also like what I think doesn't matter. Like that's something I'll talk to other players about. It's like, wouldn't it be cool if they got rid of loadouts? But it's not like I'm not going to go to the developers. Like, they're the creative ones. They're the ones making the game. I've got too much respect for developers to do that. I just think, yeah, I just think it's weirdly arrogant to assume that you know how to make the game better than the people that made it. Like, there's a weird. I know, like, one of the podcast titles, maybe tomorrow's one, is going to be about entitled gamers, and we'll talk about this a bit more. But I find that unbelievably weird that people can be playing a game for thousands of hours and then turn around to the people that made it and be like, "I know better than you about how this should be made." Like, really? Do you? Like. That seems unlikely, but okay. Like, some people obviously think very differently to me about this. Just going back on. You know, you can't even find an option to join on any channel you follow and watch, Midago. That's really weird. So I know some people can't do it on mobile sometimes. I think if you update your YouTube app, you should be able to now. But basically, any YouTube channel you're subscribed to, the subscribe button should be replaced with a join button now. And if you press join, it'll let you become a member. But yeah, it's a bit of a pain. The new UK... oh yeah, I didn't talk about this. Texas brought up the new UK ASA guidelines. They're just mental. So for anyone who hasn't seen this, now that UK has left the EU, we have to make our own rules about everything. It's nonsense. And anyway, one of them is like the new Advertising Standards Agency guidelines, the ASA guidelines. And they brought out this thing saying, like, if you receive a product for free and you make any kind of content about it, a tweet, a video, a stream, anything at all, a TikTok, whatever, it has to have the first word of the title being #ad. Like, it has to. Or sponsored, I think. It can be ad or sponsored. So that basically means that any UK streamer, in theory, if they stream Call of Duty and they were gifted that copy of Call of Duty, they have to have hashtag ad in it. If they are streaming a video game and they were gifted their capture card or their microphone or their camera or their green screen or whatever. I'm using a green screen, by the way, in case anyone didn't work out how this works. Woo! Look how cool that is. I spent all morning doing this. If that's like a thing, they now have to put hashtag ad at the front of their content, which just doesn't make any sense, because that's, if anything, that's more misleading. Like, I would, in theory, have to put hashtag ad at the front of this video. Imagine if I did that. Like, you'd just be like, what the hell is he advertising? Like, what is advertising? Can you trust streamers? That doesn't make any sense. And I'd have to start every video being like, hi everyone, so my microphone and my Wave XLR was actually gifted to me by Elgato. I'm going to be using them in this. So if it sounds good, that's because they gave me something for free. It's like, what? That's weird. Like, if I'm talking about something I was given, I will say I was given it. That's kind of the declaration that's been standard for a long while, and it works. If I'm paid to say something about a product, I will say it's an advert or it's sponsored, and I will say that I was paid to say it. Like, that's a very different thing, and these new guidelines have confused that. I don't think anyone's going to follow them. I mean, they're already not following them, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's very strange. Look at this. Oh, how weird is that? It almost looks like it's 3D, doesn't it? Very strange. Anyway, sorry, I'm just playing with it. Then what else did they say? I think, there we go. You don't think AMD invites Intel to come have a look at their new processors? No, yeah, probably not. What time is the update? TMVC said 6 o'clock UK time. So wherever you are now, it's in 8 hours. 8 hours is the new Season 3 update. And normally, unlike the betas and stuff, these actually go live. The Call of Duty Season 3 update will go live at 6 o'clock. Probably for most platforms, a few minutes later than that. PlayStation 5 already has the update. I've already preloaded it downstairs, so I'm going to bring my PlayStation up and stream from that. But yeah, 6 o'clock. So I will be live here at 6 o'clock to stream the game. Looking forward to it. Anyway, you've only just this week signed back into Twitch after a while, so follow me. Thank you very much. Yeah, please do follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Geeky Pastimes. And be streaming. I'll probably stream some Jedi Fallen Order later today, probably. I'll probably get something to eat and then go do that. Might have a smoothie, that'd be nice. You think a lot of them cater just to young people, understandably, as that's the biggest audience. Yeah, I know lots of streamers do. Like, obviously, Ninja caters to young people a lot. I think there's a lot of people who do that. Dr. Disrespect, I always thought catered to young people, but then I spent a bit of time in this stupid Midnight Society Discord and realized they're just adults that seem a lot like young people. But yeah, like, I mean, it makes sense. I don't feel comfortable making content aimed at children. I'd prefer to have a load of you old people watching. I think that's better. What else are they saying? What time does Season 3 start? I've already answered that. In many cases, Fogger said, in many cases, when customers report bugs in our programs, we're most of the time aware of it and it's already fixed and ready for the next release. Yeah, I mean, and that's been my experience with Call of Duty. Like, every time we've been in these creators calls, they're always like, yeah, we know about this. It's going to be fixed next season. It just takes a long time to fix stuff. It just, programming and coding and stuff like that, especially when you've got like 14 studios working on something, it takes a very long time to change things. Even if it seems very simple to you. I hate it when I see creators posting tweets and are like, they should just fix this. It's an easy fix. And it's like, you don't know. You haven't worked on this particular game with this particular company. You have no idea how easy it is to push an update for something like this. It's always difficult. What time is it where I'm at? It's 10 a.m. right for me now. By the way, for a variety game on Twitch, would recommend trying Stray. Yeah, I mean, I played Stray. I did play Stray when it came out. I don't know if I streamed it or not. I think I did, because I think I got a free copy of that. Or maybe, actually, no, I got it on PlayStation Premium, I think. But anyway, yeah, I didn't really like Stray, weirdly. Like, the animations were cool and stuff. I just thought it went on too long, and I didn't like the story. But yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Stray, weirdly. Anyway, we've overrun by 10 minutes, as is tradition, I think. So like I said, I'm going to stop now. I might head over to Twitch pretty soon, so make sure you follow over there, turn your notifications on, and I'll see you, twitch.tv/Geeky Pastimes. And I'll see you back here tomorrow, 9 a.m. is the next episode of the podcast, where we'll probably talk about why gamers are so entitled right now. It'll be a bit of an angry rant, to be honest. Less information, more anger. And then later today at 6 p.m, I will be doing DMZ Season 3. We're going to be hopping into DMZ. We might try some of the other modes, but Season 3 is the main thing for DMZ. So thank you very much. So much content, so much stuff to do. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.